So does capitalism, the god of capitalism, the Moloch of capitalism, demand a death sacrifice of grandma? Really? Check this out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. Anyhow, meanwhile, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick of Texas, I mentioned this yesterday, said essentially that old people should be willing and enthusiastic to patriotically die so that Trump can put our economy back into gear. Right. Apparently he didn't get the memo that most of them will die in a hospital, clogging up our healthcare system and infecting our healthcare workers. I mean, the bizarre part about this is Trump, day before yesterday, when he was when he was doing his little town hall with Fox News, he said, 35,000 Americans die every year from the flu. Has nobody told him that COVID-19 has a mortality rate, that is dead people, between 1% and 3%? There's 330 people in a million people in America. If 1/3 of Americans get sick with this virus, that's 110 million people. A death rate of 1% means 1.1 million people dead in the United States. Now, a death rate of 2%, and that's with only 1/3 of us getting infected, a death rate of 2% is 2.2 million people dead in the United States. And this disease also has a 20% rate of hospitalization. So if you get 100 million people who are sick with this, and that's really just 1/3 of America, that's the most conservative, happy face estimates out there. 1/3 of Americans. That's 110 million Americans. You're going to need 21 million hospital beds. We have nationwide 1 million hospital beds. We had 1.5 million when Reagan came into office. He stopped enforcing the Sherman Act. As a result, all these hospitals started moving for profit and consolidating and buying up their weaker competitors and putting them out of business. And as a result of this, we now have only 1 million hospital beds. We used to have 1.5 million in 1980. We're at 1 million right now. And apparently nobody told Dan Patrick this. Apparently nobody told Donald Trump. Glenn Beck says, I'm willing to die patriotically for the economy. Really? It's not, first of all, your dying patriotically is not going to help the economy. In fact, it's going to clog it up. You'll just be another person in a hospital for a week and a half on a ventilator before you croak, Glenn. And secondly, you're going to be infecting the people around you. You're going to be infecting friends and coworkers. You're going to be infecting the hospital workers. This is the big crisis they're having in Spain right now. 12% of all the people who are sick in Spain are hospital workers. They're losing their doctors and nurses because they weren't prepared for this. They didn't have the equipment. Just like we weren't prepared for this, and we don't have the equipment. But that's what's happening in Spain. It's already happened in Italy. It happened in China. The guy who discovered the coronavirus, the physician, died of it in his 30s. I mean, this latest story about how transmissible this is now dangerous is Florida's Department of Health, this is from The Hill, Florida's Department of Health announced yesterday afternoon, that a baby boy and a 2-year-old girl have tested positive with the coronavirus. The baby boy is less than a year old. And, they're trying to figure out how these kids got it. Broward County has reported 312 cases as of this morning, compared with Miami-Dade's 367. I don't know if you caught the segment on Rachel Maddow's show last night where she had on the guy who is the owner of a company that sells smart thermometers. And when you use the smart thermometer, all the data, it's apparently anonymous, but it's got location data tied to it. And so it goes back to the company. And the company can see nationwide where there are fever outbreaks. And when you look at this, you see, New York City is glowing, nice and bright red. A lot of fevers in New York City. Washington State is glowing bright red. You got a couple of little spots around San Francisco. But the entire state of Florida looks like it's got the pox. I mean, it's just exploded across Florida, which means if people are starting to get the fevers right now, in a week, they're going to start showing up in the ER. And Ron DeSantis in Florida is like, I don't, nothing, no problem. Let the old people die, right? Just weed them out. And who cares about our hospital workers? We don't need no stinking hospitals or doctors or nurses. Let them all die. And then Brit Hume on Fox News says, that's an entirely reasonable position. That was his phrase, entirely reasonable. Yes, entirely reasonable. It's not only stupid and illogical, but it's also a sign of sociopathy, an absolute inability to empathetically connect with other people. I mean, what's next? Turn old people into Soylent Green? Just boil it well first? I mean, that's the direction it seems that we're going. So anyhow, we are talking about how we get through a national crisis. I want to get into the Senate bill, which has not yet passed the House. Passing the Senate is a big deal because the Republicans there are, and update you on what's going on with regard to the Trump administration and all this. And of course, we'll pick up your phone calls on these and any other issues you want. The one thing I am asking people to do is we've had a couple of people come on the air in the last 24, 48 hours and say, oh, I found a great website, or here's you need to email me at this address, or you need to check this out. And, a couple of them have been really good suggestions, and a couple of them have been obviously the equivalent of spam. So I'm asking people, unless you're a regular caller to the program and Joyce recognizes you, do not call in with, hey, let's all take echinacea, or let's all take, massive amounts of vitamin C or whatever. I mean, there's nothing wrong with staying healthy. Do everything you can. But, let's just be sensible about this. So this $2 trillion coronavirus bill that Trump's tweeting he's in favor of, it specifically bans the Trump family, well, actually anybody who works in the White House or Congress, from receiving any of the benefits. I don't know if they exempted the Supreme Court as well or not. But taxpayer-backed loans cannot go to companies owned by Donald Trump. So what's he going to do? He's going to give them all to his son, right? This is going to be the thing that's going to cause him to divest himself. If, or he'll figure out some scam way around it. He'll have his son create a new company and say, well, this company should do it. But anyhow, provides $150 billion for state and local stimulus funds, $130 billion for hospitals, extends unemployment insurance benefits. You get an additional $600 a week from the feds if you're on state unemployment. Republicans agreed to allow an oversight board and create a Treasury Department Special Inspector General for pandemic recovery. Now, that's the good news. The bad news is the 5 members of the board are appointed by the president, and their oversight is provided by the Senate. You got a Republican president, a Republican Senate. I'm not real, optimistic about how that's going to play out, but, hey, these are tough times.